Hello and welcome to Bat and Bee Video 3. So far we've got some basic movement for those two sprites, and I'm reminding us that we have a stage with a couple of different backgrounds that we're going to need to start to use. We need to determine what is it that creates a winning versus a losing condition, and so the way I was envisioning this game is with a number of screeches from the bat. In other words, every time he's stung, we're going to have to count that, and when we get above a certain number, we're going to call that a losing criteria. So in order to count something, like the number of times the bat is hit by the bee, we need a variable, a counter variable. So we can go into the variables palette and click Make a Variable. We're going to call this stings. Now you have to check one of the other boxes here. By default it's for all sprites. Usually you can leave it here. It just means that any script for any sprite has access to this variable. If you're a coder already, what it really means is that this is a global variable accessible anywhere in the whole project. So the question then really is, so what script should we use to detect if the bat is being hit by the bee? You could, from the bee's perspective, you could create a script here that says, if the bee is touching the bat. From the bat's perspective, you could write a script that says when the bat is touching the bee. It really doesn't matter. The two are touching. It doesn't matter from whose perspective, right? But there is a third option, and that's the one I want to explain. So usually when we have scripts for the bee or the bat, those scripts are just for that sprite. When we talk about the roles that these sprites play, they play the role of actors, and the stage is literally the stage of this play. And there is a third role that we haven't really talked much about, and that is of the stage. Well, of course the stage has backgrounds, yes. But the stage can also have code. So if you think of the stage as a sprite, and the role of that sprite is to be the stage director, then you're thinking the right way. This would be a good place just to collect all of the tasks that are kind of universal to the whole project. And in this case, the ones that control the gameplay. So we're going to create a script here in the stage. So as usual, we'll use an event block. Every time we start the program, we want some things to happen. Well, we're going to always not assume that our variable is starting off at any specific value. It's good programming habit to just initialize all variables. So the number of stings is initially set to 0, and now we need a forever block with an if, right? So we want to constantly be testing a situation. And in this case, we are testing if the stings is larger than some value. So we're going to need an inequality block. And the stings is going to come from the variables block. So just go grab that and plop it right there. So for purpose of our game, let's just set this to 1. Whoops, 1 for now. And we can always change this condition at any time. So as soon as he's had more than one sting, what we want to happen is we want to say game over. Well, the game over is a looks block because what we're going to do is tell the background on the stage to change to, in this case, the losing screen. Super. But when we lose, remember, we're also ending the game. So we want all of the scripts to stop. We don't want things flying around anymore. We don't want any action at all. So the way to do that is to go use, again, a looks, I'm sorry, this would be a control block, and we just want to literally stop all scripts. Great. Now the only thing that's left here is we haven't gotten any code yet to bump up the strings value or stings variable whenever the bat is stung. So let's go back to his script and just add one more little piece. So we've already got 3 scripts for this bat. One is controlling his constant motion. Independent from that, in other words, simultaneously, we're also monitoring when we touch the bee, we're going to screech. And again, separate from that, when we touch the bee, we're going to say ow. So either one of these places, it doesn't matter. We're going to drop one more block, and it just literally is going to increment. So there's a change by block that we can use. Whoops. And we're going to change, not my variable, let's change stings by 1. So what that will do is essentially execute the command stings equals stings plus 1. Well, let's take a look and see if we like this. So remember, after the second sting, we should hit the end of game screen. There's 1, and here comes 2. Great. That works pretty well. Sometimes when we have a stop all script at the end of an if block, we need to create a little time for all the other scripts to finish their actions. In this case, we got the play sound and the looks block with the text bubble. So it's always a good idea when you're stopping all scripts to put a little bit of a wait there. So that's easy. That's just an events block right there. And you don't have to wait long, just half a second. 0.5. Great, so let's go play this game again and take a look. Aha, so something happened that we didn't think about until now because we're just looking at this ending game condition. So what we really want to do is make sure when we start the program, we always go to the initial play screen. Well, that's easy. We can do that from the stage. In fact, we can just put it right at the top of this block right here. So every time we start this program, we want to make sure we'll go to the looks block and we're going to switch to the play costume on the stage. So let's take a look at that. Sometimes it takes a minute for this to play so we can see it. Here's 1. And 2. Great. Okay. You can adjust those weights as needed just to make sure everything is nice and smooth. And when we start the game, great. Well, the next thing to do would be to write the code that will trigger the winning condition. So we have to decide, how do we win this game if it's much of a game? We're not really controlling any sprites, but we're just watching action play out. One idea is just to set a time limit. So we can have a timer. It's very easy. Just create another variable, give it a starting value, and every second just remove 1 from that, and then we'll make a test very much like this guy right here. But instead we'll be testing not stings, but time. And when time gets below 1, we know that that's a game over condition. So here's the idea. If the bat can fly around for 10 seconds, say, without getting stung more than twice, he wins. So while he's flying around, if he's stung more than twice, he loses. So actually, we're writing another set of blocks very much like this one. Let's just duplicate it, right? Put that one back, and we'll play with this one. So we're not going to use stings now. Let's go create another variable called the timer. So make variable timer. Because we're creating this timer variable in the stage, it is global, so we don't have that check boxes like we did before. So if we just set ourselves a 10-second game, we're now going to test if the timer is, oops, we need a less than block. Sorry about that. Switch blocks here. So if the timer is less than 1, now you could say equals 0. It doesn't really matter. The logic is the same. Now we're going to switch to the win screen. Wait half a second and then stop all scripts. So we can just put this right in there, that same forever block. And remember, these do run sequentially, and that's not going to be a problem. We can get rid of that. Now all that's really left for this script is to initialize the timer with its starting value. We'll use the number 10, and to count the timer down by 1 second forever. So that's easy. Let's go grab a set variable too. Just like the stings, we're going to set timer to a starting value of 10. Now, remember, these blocks right here are not in a forever. So that just means that they execute once. This is like, the initialization of the program. These are things that happen at startup. Now, in the forever block, we're going to need some control of the timer. So in this script, to control the timer, we just need a wait block, and we're going to change the timer by 1. So just like we were adding stings to the sting variable, we're going to add -1 to the timer. So we can count down for starting at 10. And of course we want this condition to happen continuously. So we'll put this in the forever block, but not in the if blocks, because we've got 2 tests that we're constantly running, while at the same time we're running the timer. So let's examine this code. I think everything is there. So it looks like we're going to be watching the timer this time to see if it times out and goes to the win screen. There's the 1 screech, and yep, there we go. So we want to think about, right now, these 2 sprites are still visible on the screen, and they sort of conceal some of the text here. A nice consideration would be to just make those things disappear when we're on those different stage backgrounds. So we can do that easily. So for this action, we're going to use the broadcast and receive blocks in Scratch. Those are really cool. They allow sprites to communicate with each other. And in this case, the stage, as in his role as the stage director, is going to give a shout out to all of the sprites to tell them to go hide. So we'll go grab a broadcast block. And we're going to create a new one called hide. And we're just going to throw that block right at the bottom, right along with, well, we're going to actually do this twice, because there's 2 different places where we're going to shout out here. So if you lose because of the stings, we're going to execute this end game condition. But also if you lose because of the timer timed out, we also want to execute that as well. So the stage director is yelling hide. How do these sprites hear that? And that's easy. Back in the B script, we're going to need just 1 little block. So another script here. When I receive hide, and the matching action in the looks block should be hide, which is at the bottom. Great. Now we need to do the same thing for the bat. So over in the bat script, when I receive hide, looks, hide. Now the problem is at the end of the game, we will fix that in the final video.